Melody Shari has shown the world many sides of her life over the years, but the most powerful part of her journey has been the way she continues to carry herself with grace, no matter what is happening around her. In this latest chapter, the drama with Martell, Holt and Arionne has become more embarrassing than ever for them, yet Melody stands tall, calm, and composed. What makes this moment stand out is not just the court drama, not just the accusations, and not just the shade being thrown, but how clearly the difference is shown between a woman walking in grace and two people showing the world their immaturity. This story has pulled the entire Huntsville community into conversation. It has people talking not just about the court case, but also about the way Martell and Arionne behave versus the way Melody conducts herself. Fans are connecting dots that go back years, realizing how long this pattern has been going on. And when you look at it closely, it becomes clear that Martell and Arionne are trapped in a cycle of embarrassment, while Melody has freed herself from that mess by staying calm, keeping her dignity, and refusing to lower herself. It all started when Tasha K dropped a shocking bombshell that made people stop in their tracks. She revealed that she lost all respect for Martell Holt after hearing something deeply disturbing. According to her, Martell recorded an intimate video of his then-wife, Melody, and even threatened to use it against her. This wasn't just a rumor whispered on blogs. Tasha explained that the information had crossed her desk before, and Melody herself had confirmed it when they spoke. That detail made the revelation even more real. Fans who had followed this story for years suddenly had the missing piece of the puzzle. Think about what that means. For years, Melody has told people about the harassment she faces from Martell. She has spoken about the way he ignores boundaries, the way he disrupts her peace, and the way even their children have had to deal with his behavior. Some people believed her. Others brushed it off, claiming it was just reality TV drama. Some even accused her of exaggerating. But this revelation from Tasha K showed that Melody was not exaggerating. She was not creating drama. She was dealing with a man who not only betrayed her in their marriage but also tried to use something intimate as a weapon. When that news hit the internet, the reactions came pouring in. Some people were shocked, some were angry, and some tried, as usual, to defend Martell. But the majority of fans stood firmly with Melody. People finally saw why she had spoken out so many times about feeling unsafe. They finally understood why she had been pushing for boundaries. It was no longer a matter of he said, she said. There was confirmation from someone who had no reason to lie about it. But instead of taking this moment to reflect on his actions, instead of realizing how damaging this was, Martell did what he always does, he laughed. He turned it into a joke. He dismissed the seriousness of it as if threatening your wife with a private video was something to joke about. That attitude right there is the reason so many fans are fed up with him. It shows immaturity. It shows a lack of accountability. And it shows how far he will go to avoid looking in the mirror. The pattern is clear. Whenever Martell is faced with a serious issue, he doesn't handle it with maturity. He doesn't accept responsibility. He laughs, he deflects, he shifts the blame, and he tries to make someone else look like the problem. This time was no different. The situation got even more ridiculous when Martell decided to take shots at Melody over her courtroom attire. Melody walked into that courtroom in a white suit, polished, professional, and dignified. She carried herself like a woman who was there to handle business, not drama. She was composed, calm, and ready to stand strong. But Martell mocked her outfit, calling it her Sunday best. He tried to make fun of her for looking too polished in a courtroom setting. The irony, of course, is that no one was pointing fingers at how he was dressed. Once again, the double standard was on full display. This is something fans have noticed for years. Melody is constantly criticized for being too perfect, too polished, and too professional. People expect her to walk on eggshells, and they look for flaws to attack. Meanwhile, Martell can show up looking sloppy, acting reckless, and behaving immaturely, and people let it slide. That imbalance has been part of this story all along. And then there was Arionne, standing right there in the middle of the drama. Fans whispered about how short her outfit was for court. But just like always, she didn't get dragged the same way Melody did. The criticism for Arionne was quiet, while the criticism for Melody was loud. Once again, Melody carried the unfair weight of judgment while others around her skated by with little consequence. The most intense moment came right after court, when Melody, Martell, Arionne, and security all ended up in the same elevator. Just picture that for a moment. The courtroom had already been full of tension, but now all of that energy was squeezed into a small, closed-off space. You could cut the air with a knife. And instead of keeping quiet, instead of holding her tongue, Arionne opened her mouth and threw shade at Melody. She said Melody was with somebody's husband's family. The irony of that comment made fans shake their heads. Arionne has spent years trying to escape the side chick label. She has fought against that reputation, claiming she was misunderstood. Yet in that elevator, in that moment, she reminded everyone exactly why people still call her that. It wasn't confidence. It wasn't strength. It was a last-ditch attempt to sting Melody. But once again, Melody didn't take the bait. She didn't argue back. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't throw shade in return. She stood calm, stayed grounded, and held her head high. That is why people admire her. She knows that every battle doesn't need a response. She knows that dignity speaks louder than insults. She knows that grace will always outshine mess. Meanwhile, Martell continued the same cycle that fans have seen countless times. Instead of facing the accusations seriously, instead of admitting any fault, he flipped the script. He went live, laughed about the situation, and tried to blame Melody and her family. He even claimed that they were the real abusers. Fans have seen this pattern over and over. Martell stirs the pot, pushes buttons, and when Melody reacts like any normal person would, he records it and plays the victim. It's a cycle that has repeated itself on the show, in real life, and even in court. People are exhausted from watching it play out again and again. And then came the penalty. Martell laughed and said if he really did what Melody accused him of, he would be in jail, not paying a $300 fine. He tried to spin it as if the court proved him innocent. But fans know better. Just because the punishment was light doesn't mean the behavior was okay. Courts don't always deliver justice the way they should. A small fine doesn't erase the seriousness of what was done. Martell knows that too. But instead of being humbled, instead of taking responsibility, he laughed again and turned it into another joke. This is why social media dragged him harder than ever. People are tired of the jokes, the deflections, and the refusal to take accountability. Fans are no longer impressed by the excuses. They want to see change, and Martell keeps showing that he is not interested in changing. Through all of this, the contrast could not be clearer. On one side, you have Martell and Arionne embarrassing themselves with immature behavior, reckless comments, and petty shade. On the other side, you have Melody walking with grace, handling her business, and refusing to be pulled into their chaos. That is why fans remain loyal to her. That is why she is respected. And that is why she continues to rise above. The impact of Martell's behavior doesn't just stop with him, Arionne, and Melody. It ripples out into the rest of the cast. Marceau and Maurice Scott have both tried to check him at different times. We've seen Marceau confront him during heated moments, like the rooftop fight that turned into one of the show's most explosive scenes. We've seen Maurice step in, trying to be logical and calm, but still pointing out the patterns in Martell's behavior. Kimmy Scott has often tried to be the voice of reason, gently pointing out that Martell avoids responsibility at every turn. She has tried to explain things in a way that he might accept, but time and time again, he proves that he is unwilling to listen. Miss Wanda has also had her say, sometimes shading Martell, sometimes fanning the flames, but always making sure her voice is heard in the drama. And then there is Carlos King, the producer behind the show. Fans are now calling him out directly. They want to know why production hasn't stepped in more forcefully when Melody has said repeatedly that she feels unsafe. This is not just about good television anymore. When a woman says her peace and her children's safety are at risk, this becomes real life. Fans are demanding accountability not only from Martell and Arionne but also from the people running the show. Melody has made it clear that she is not going to let this drama define her. She continues to build her businesses, raise her children, and live her life with dignity. She doesn't need to respond to every insult because her actions speak louder than words. She represents strength, independence, and grace, and that is why people admire her. Every time Martell and Arionne open their mouths to throw shade, they only prove the point further. They show the world how childish and messy they are, while Melody shows the world how strong and steady she is. That difference will always stand out. It is the reason Melody continues to rise above the negativity, and it is the reason she will always be remembered as the one who carried herself with true grace, while Martell and Arionne embarrassed themselves again and again.